Well, this is going to be the last report of the year. Hopefully in 2012 we're going to have different volunteers and staff and board members and folks from the organization share, as well as getting some young people and families to share what's going on in the community and kind of the culmination of some of the work that's been going on behind the scenes. For many folks, they know us simply by Heaventrain. We've run Heaventrain for 32 consecutive years. We'll be beginning our 33rd year next year. And some other folks know us for the programs we do related to food distribution and clothing and those types of things. But about 5 or 6 years ago, there was a time of transition that began to happen as I came back from college and we began to work, and we began to notice that many of the leaders that the organization was built on back in the early 80s and into the 90s had either passed away, had moved away, or had just become too old to be able to carry out the work that they were doing. And many of these folks that were doing that work were neighborhood residents. Probably a vast majority of the volunteers and staff that set the course of the organization worked with my dad and were neighborhood folks. And so 5 or 6 years ago, began to notice that we were losing that connection, and really felt like that was the glue that kept the organization together, that made us special, allowed for Heaventrain to be effective well beyond just the Saturday programs. And as we looked around the neighborhood, we realized that we weren't seeing the change that we felt like needed to happen, that in order for His kingdom to come and in order for His will to be done, that meant that life had to be better for the people, and specifically the kids living in Central. And while Heaventrain brought that message, we felt like we had to be more intentional about creating the space, the places where His kingdom would come and where kids would kind of connect and families would connect with that person they were created to be. So in the last 5 or 6 years, we have taken on a new strategy called asset-based community development. And it kind of merges several ideas together. Number one, it takes kind of the loaf and fishes of the story. You have to start with what you have. And you build based on what you have, and you allow for it to be used by God to multiply and to bring transformation from inside. So the little boy's lunch is an example of a resource that was discovered among the group, and it was an asset that Jesus was able to use to accomplish something special that day. And so instead of looking at neighborhood challenges, we look at what we have to build with, the relationships, the connections, the friendships we have through Heaventrain and our other programs, and the potential that lies within the young people that we work with. And the organization's philosophy is to build assets into the lives of young people and to build on the young people themselves. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we are going to be focusing more and more and more on the transformation side of ministry. There's the proclamation, the preaching the gospel, which Heaventrain covers, and many of our programs have a piece of that. There is the demonstration where believers are able to carry out the love of Christ in ways to community and through volunteer efforts and through their kindness. But we're going to be focusing more and more and more of our efforts on transformation and multiplication. So transformation is the leadership development, building on the assets and the skills of individuals, students, families, and creating that sense of community and family that we all know is critical to building a better future. it's very challenging to when you say, hey, how are you going to transform a neighborhood? Well, we want to help people be better neighbors. We want to help students to be better citizens and to achieve what God created them to accomplish. And we're going to help families be stronger and neighbors to be better neighbors. We all know that makes a better community, but for the last 4 or 5 years, we have intentionally focused on laying the groundwork for much of that work. We've done surveys in our community. We've done dinners. We've built friendships. There's places where moms and dads and kids are volunteering and taking leadership roles. And what happens is, as folks begin to take ownership, they begin to dream. They not only begin to dream for what a better life would look like, but they begin to dream what a better neighborhood could look like. And as we find success, as tutoring programs are producing results, as neighbor circles are bringing friends together, as those friends are looking out for each other and they're building a sense of community, as basketball programs are steering kids away from gang activity or drug activity, and they're going to be graduating and going on to college. As those things begin to happen, there's a cumulative effect that says His kingdom's coming and His will is being done. So we've tested some ideas. We're an organization that works on very thin margins. We don't have a fundraising budget. We have not invested in a lot of the fund development costs and things like that. We always try to put every penny we can into relationships and to building leaders. So in 2011, I want to review what's happened, and then we're going to talk about what's going to happen in 2012. So in 2011, our basketball team expanded from high school students to junior high and high school students. We went from 6 players a few years ago to 12 in 2010 to one day at practice this year we had 47 kids in a little gym. We brought in a better level of coaching. We've not only had the city leagues that we participated in, but also a travel AAU schedule. And our guys are being exposed to new opportunities. They're beginning to see that with discipline and hard work that they can achieve spectacular results. That on a basketball floor, there's an equal playing field. It doesn't matter who you are, what your name is, or what neighborhood you come from. That when the ball goes up in the air, that it's their hard work and the talent that pays off. And this is allowing us to transfer that into real life teaching. That basketball is like real life, that with hard work and with talent, you can get someplace, and with teamwork, you can get even further. And so you say, well, how does that translate? Well, just in one instance, we have 3 guys that are seniors that are on our basketball team last year. 2 of them we've worked on and off with for the last 4 or 5 years. This year with AAU, they won a Grand National AAU tournament, but their work and dedication began to be apparent, and it's translated into the classroom. We have one young man that's grade point average has gone from a 2.2 cumulative for high school to a 3.8. We have another young man whose grade point average went from a 1.4 to a 3.84, all A's and a B. And their attendance, their tardies and their attendance scores are just off the charts. One of these young men, for sure, and maybe both, have passed. One has passed the OGT, and we expect that in the next few weeks or maybe months, we'll be having a video like this where he's signing his letter of intent to go play college basketball and to go get an education. Those are remarkable results. It's taken 5 years to work with a group of young people long enough to begin to affect the change that we want to see for them and for our neighborhood. And we expect that in 2012 and 2013 that this is going to repeat and the numbers are going to grow as the program gets stronger. We're working off of a peanuts budget, but we're making it work. And that the tutoring and the mentoring and the life training that these young men get out, on and off the basketball court is going to prepare them to become something that God intends for them to become. Now, those are tangible results. 1.4 to 3.8 says that basketball can make a difference in the life of a young person. Our tutoring, we see kids reading at second grade levels growing to reading at grade level before they graduate from high school. We see kids making 2 and 3 year grade level leaps from second grade, third grade to 5th and 6th and 7th grade, their first year in high school. And while they're not caught up yet, it's remarkable that in 1 year they can make that kind of progress, and their confidence begins to build, and their determination begins to build, and the network of support that they have begins to grow, and there's more people that care about them being successful, and so they will be successful. So that's the power of investing in a tutoring program and investing in a basketball program, and it's the power of people investing time and building relationships. Because that's what's scarce today in our neighborhood. We've expanded. Tutoring now is reaching first grade, and it's going to be reaching third graders and eighth graders. And we're reaching into elementary school because we realize that in order for us to really affect the change that needs to happen, it's about giving kids a strong foundation, not trying to catch them up after the fact. And so these little kids have a hunger to learn, and they're excited to learn about reading, and they look forward to spending time with their tutors. And so the sky's the limit with that in 2012, 13, and beyond. But what we're proud about is that we've done this. We've done these pilot projects with few resources, with a dedicated team that finds ways to squeeze $10 worth of work out of every dollar that we spend on the program. We're able to do that because we work with partners. We work in school buildings, and we work with teachers and with administrators, and we work with rec centers, and we work with churches, and we work with folks that want to accomplish the same ends that we want to accomplish. And we each bring something to the table. And we bring volunteers, we bring dedicated program staff, they bring facilities and buildings, and what we're able to do is we're able to get the job done by working together. And that's His kingdom coming. So, there's a lot of things on the horizon, but one of the things we've begun to realize, in 2011, we had health issues that hampered our ability to deliver programs. My dad's health at times hurt the Heaventrain kids experience, and we began to realize that there's a need to begin to raise up young urban leaders, not just in our neighborhood, but for other cities. And the results that we're getting from Heaventrain, from the summer food program, from the holiday programs that we do, from the tutoring, from the basketball, from the mentoring, those results are causing other cities to come and ask us to help them to create a lighthouse-like organization or to expand Lighthouse to their city. And so there's 3 or 4 cities already that are seriously pursuing this relationship. And we've come to realize that in order for us to both impact our neighborhood the way that we want, to create sustainable change and transformation, that we need to invest in young leaders, more leaders, neighborhood-based leaders. And then at the same time, if we're going to help other cities replicate the same kind of results that we're replicating and build the same kind of value into their neighborhoods and are able to mobilize people and see the kingdom come, that we have to intentionally build a leadership development and training into what we do, not just into our youth programming, but we need to pass on the knowledge of 32 years to young leaders or to church folks or to organizations in other cities, but that we have to start at home. So the thing I'm most excited about in 2012 is our intentional focus to not only continue to develop strong programs and to expand them as we're able, as the resources and the people are available. It comes down to money and people. You can't create money, you can't create time, and you cannot create people. You got to develop those things. And so on 2012, we're going to be spending some concerted effort on bringing in some folks to train as the potential successors for ministry spots within our organization in Cleveland. develop some young Heaventrain folks to be the leaders of the programs that we develop for tomorrow. And at the same time, we're going to begin to develop the same type of leadership training for other cities. We don't know specifically what that's going to look like. But can you imagine if you were called to be a young urban church worker, or you were called into church ministry, and there weren't very many schools to go to get the training for the types of neighborhoods that we work in? Can you imagine the opportunity to spend a 1-year internship with a guy that's got 32 years experience on the ground in an organization that's proven effective for 32 years? And can you imagine being able to take what the passion that you have inside of you and the gifts that God has given you and put them to work in the field so you can see effective things happen while you learn that build transformation into lives of individuals and into a community? So this year we need to raise about $24,000, $12,000 to cover the cost of Phil's time, my dad's time in doing the training, so we can transition some leadership into the Heaventrain roles, and then another $12,000 to begin to bring in some stipend level ministry trainees. That's about half our cost to pull this off. But in order for us to commit to this, in order for us to build something that's going to last for the next 30 years, it's time to pass on the wisdom and the experience, not just in the relational way that we do, not just in the walking it out together, but in an intentional, prescribed approach to leadership development. So we're hoping that as we close out 2011, as we look at the opportunities where there's four new cities looking to be a part of this, where we have young leaders that are excited to come and live in community in Cleveland, as there's these chances to really begin to march towards the promise that we have. We look at 2011 and see that God has been faithful, that in crazy circumstances that I can't even explain to you, it just takes too much time, but that when we should be looking at cutting back and to stepping back in a terrible economy, in a city that's ravaged by foreclosures and job losses, that it seems that year after year we find ourselves planning for the next step of growth towards the vision that God has called us to. So we're asking folks to consider this year to invest in our investment in new leaders. Help us make the commitment to train and raise up leaders that can continue this ministry here in Cleveland and in other cities. To give you an idea of how God works, last Saturday we gave out 1,400 Christmas gifts to kids on Heaventrain. We gave out roughly 800 coats this holiday season. We fed 5,000 people Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners. When a week before that Heaventrain Christmas, we didn't think we were going to be able to pull it off. We had done a lot of work trying to raise the money, but it just hadn't been coming in. And so the week before, we had all but canceled. We told our staff we're not going to be doing a Heaventrain Christmas unless something happens. And so we had settled our minds that was going to happen. But within a week, things had changed, and it all started where a little boy on Heaventrain stepped up and said that he wanted to be a giver. And so he took 87 cents out of his pocket. He gave it to my dad and said, I want to give this to go towards Heaventrain. That story got out. People got inspired by that young man's faithfulness, and we've had an amazing 2-week run. And that has given us the courage and the commitment that even though we don't know how to come up with the resources for this leadership development, although we can't imagine how we're going to pull it together with the time that we have and with the people that we have right now, that God has been moving every step of the way. And so we're going to kind of cast this out there and say to people, look, here's a way where you can make an amazing difference. not just for today, not just in feeding hungry bellies or making a kid's Christmas, but for investing in young people from our neighborhood, investing in young people from other cities, investing in leaders in other cities that want to spend time working with one of the most effective leaders in urban ministry you'll find. So we're excited about this. It's a little bit scary, but we feel like this is the next step that God is leading us toward, and we're inviting folks to, like that little boy, dig into your pocket, dig into your heart, and find out what it is that the Lord's laid on your heart for you to do this year, so that He can bless and multiply what we give, both in the financial gifts that we give and in the effort that our organization invests in people, so that He can multiply our faithfulness to advance His kingdom. So we thank you for an amazing 2011, and we look forward to 2012 expecting great things. And we invite you to join us in this journey of His kingdom coming and His will being done in Central and in cities across our region and beyond. So thank you, and Merry Christmas, and have a blessed New Year.